troubles almost when the soul storms like billows over me roll. Troubles seek to lure us astray. Storms obscure the light of day, but in Christ I can be bold. I have an anchor that shall hold, and it holds. I know, we're going to Tiger Space in a little bit. I just wanted to read this book. I'm just going to read a chapter of it. It's beautiful, it's helpful. It helps people articulate and increase. It's just what God says about language. And so I know we have a very short time. Don't really have much to sing about. Wow, we got total chaos going on here. Just don't look down. You don't want to see that. No, we had a very productive day. It was really good. Let me hit share. I haven't even posted this. This is kind of a last minute thing. I wanted to read a book, and I thought it was reading a helpful book. On communication skills. Bom, 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 bom. Bom, 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 bom. Yeah, I got a fourth device today, so now we're going to stream independently on various platforms. Anyway, all right, we got short time. Just want to make sure we're live on the right channels here. Yeah. Oh, wow. It looks like we're going. All right, here we go. So this is a fella that I knew, last name Baker. I know him and his brother. The title is Fitly Spoken, Developing Biblical Communication and Social Skills. And it's kind of funny. The person who recommended this to me said it with pretty big emphatic gestures that I needed this. And so I agree. There's definite room for improvement. I think all of us can become better. But I am humble enough to recognize I've not arrived. It says here, to Jesus Christ, my Savior, and Liberty Baker, my wife. This is not my wife, by the way. This is a friend of mine. It is impossible to suppose that any man is self-made. To that end, this book is dedicated to the greatest communicators and contributors in my life. Other books by, well, I guess the guy can't stop writing. He's got some other fictional novels, the Davidic Chronicles, ooh, instead of the Chronicles of Narnia. Fantasy novels, you must have an imagination. Wow, that's interesting. Here's a book he wrote called Restoring a Fallen Christian, Rebuilding Lives for the Cause of Christ. The Great Tribulation and the Day of the Lord, Reconciling the Premillennial Approach to Revelation. Maybe he's distinguishing between the Day of the Lord and the Great Tribulation. And then this one's called The Gospel of Manhood According to Dad, A Young Man's Guide to Becoming a Man. Wow. Stress and Overstress, 6 Ways to Handle Stress. Sounds like he has a pretty stressful life. Contents, Introduction and History, The Power of the Word. I'm just going to read through the titles because I think that's the right thing to do. Chapter 1, Nobody Likes Me. Making Friends and Keeping Friends. Chapter 2, We Never Talk. Establishing Good Communication Lines. Chapter 3, I think he's going to do negative and positive the whole way. Sticks and Stones, the power of words to build or destroy the spirit. Chapter next, I don't know what to say. Communication methods and techniques. Well, expressing yourself. I just put my foot in my mouth, didn't I? Using the right words for the right situations. Chapter next. I don't want to hear this right now. The influence of timing and atmosphere in communication. Wow. You don't know when to be quiet, do you? Controlling your tongue. Oh my goodness. What did you just call me? Dealing with cussing and name calling. Wow, okay, that's enough. We're just gonna skip in and jump. Introduction in history. And this was not meant to have a huge crowd. I know this is not a regularly scheduled time, and I'm looking forward to Tiger Man's time. And probably a lot of people are already doing stuff on Friday night, and that's okay. But this is what I'm doing. So here we go. What we're doing together. Ready? Introduction in history. The power of the word. It is impossible to overstate the power of the word. As a teacher and pastor raised in Christian circles, I've come to realize a great weakness among those I minister to. This weakness isn't by any means unique to Christianity. In fact, it's decidedly a human weakness that manifests itself anytime a group of people congregate and attempt to communicate. The weakness is twofold. Number one, we often use words to harm, hello Gary, to damage, or otherwise to dismantle a person's spirit. Wow. Number two, we allow the words spoken by others to tear down our spirit instead of allowing those words to build up our spirit. I wish this weren't true, but I think he's speaking the truth. The theme of communication is one that runs throughout much of the Bible. In particular, Proverbs and James deal with the subject extensively. So James 3, hello Rita. James 3 says, "For in many things we offend all." Youch. "If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body." The verse above is rather powerful indictment of the human race. The ability to be inoffensive with our words is equated to a perfect or extremely well-rounded individual with complete control over his own body. I don't know about you, but I've often said something I wish I could take back. I've said things in anger that I really didn't mean, but those words, once passed through my lips, still hurt someone. I've put my foot in my mouth more times than I care to recall. Proverbs 18 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." If the above verse is true, then I wonder how sweet or sour our fruit is. The tongue has great power to heal or destroy. How many relationships have we slain with the tongue? How many positive relationships began with the right words? On the other side of the spectrum is how we receive words spoken by others. Immaturity in this area can also undo other areas of growth, whether it is spiritual growth or even growth in one's relationships. I've watched a believer who matured in his prayer life, faithfulness, church attendance, Bible reading, demeanor, community outreach, and character take badly to a comment spoken by another Christian. That one comment has the potential to unravel all the progress hitherto made. Take the following verse, Proverbs 9. "Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee." Handling rebuke well takes tremendous maturity on the part of the wise men. To love the one who has reproved, corrected, or criticized you is a level of maturity that very few people possess. Could speech have evolved? Next paragraph, headline. Various studies suggest that speech is not innate or intrinsic to humans. Efforts to teach speech to animals has only seen basic results, and the ability in one animal to say a few words is not passed on to the offspring. This disallows the notion that speech is an evolved ability or quality that we are born with. Hello, Haas. It's just getting exciting. Evidence exists that suggests that speech is solely a learned behavior. Examples of a child growing up in an environment without speech show that he will naturally develop other methods of communication and not that of complicated speech. Thus, if two people had children, their offspring would not develop speech. If to such people, language is not innate or intrinsic to us. It is solely a learned behavior. This implies that the first humans could speak and support our understanding of God's creation of the world and of mankind in the book of Genesis. Adam's creation held a maturity beyond our understanding. He was created knowing how to talk, to walk, and to reason. It is only because of this God-given quality that we today have learned language. I really want to add a sentence, and I think I will. I love hanging around people who enjoy language. Now back to the author. This is not to say that language itself does not evolve. It does. The English we speak today is a far cry from the English spoken by King Henry of England. As cultures and nationalities move on, language moves on with them, growing and developing. But the art of speaking itself was not an evolutionary phenomenon. That was given to us by God, the power of the tongue, which we covered. The ability to communicate is complicated. In complicated manner is one reason why we are so superior to animals. It is interesting that the most intelligent animals on earth all have a varied form of communication, but none are so nuanced as human speech. Parrots can mimic human speech patterns, but still don't communicate with other parrots in that manner, nor do they attempt to teach their offspring that form of communication. Only humans have words that convey ideas. It was from an idea that God spoke the universe into existence. At the same time, one's ability to control his tongue, speech, and language shows a depth of character able to control all other parts of the body. So I went to the store today and I bought this. What do you do with an idea? Because all of us need to be a child at heart. And this is just a boy chasing an idea. This is designed to be read to kids or grandkids. And so he's saying that God started the universe with an idea. I was just going to read this later, but I just thought that was interesting. Here are a couple quotes that you may want to remember. The pen is mightier than the sword. Of course we know that one. A sword less hurt does than a pen? What? A man's character is revealed by his speech. Language most shows a man. Speak that I might see thee. The magic of the tongue is the most dangerous of all spells. God himself is his word, in his word stated. In Matthew 24, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. So let's consider the power of communication. There is no other power on earth that can both fix problems and create them like that of speech. Whoever said the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, was quite ignorant of human nature. Words can and do hurt quite deeply. Words express who you are, what you want, where you are going, your ideas, your love, your imagination. They give meaning to the meaningless. Nations go to war over words. Marriages can be fixed or destroyed by words. And children actually believe your words. This book is designed to teach the skills necessary to communicate better, to express yourself appropriately, and to develop social skills designed to strengthen your relationships. Speaking and writing are art forms. If you wish to have better relationships, you need to master these arts. It takes effort and practice. I didn't write this book, by the way. It's somebody a lot smarter than me. I'm just reading it. Communication isn't a skill or a tool reserved solely for the so-called intelligent or wise. No, it's available to all who are willing to take the time to develop this essential relationship builder. Take, for example, the portrayal of a wise man or woman within a novel or a movie. Their particular word choice of the character is how we perceive the depth of this character's wisdom. It's a person's ability to use language well that often gives the semblance of wisdom or intelligence. The more command you have of the language and communication, the smarter and more intelligent you will seem to others. It is also one of the very few ways to open your mind to what you would not normally perceive. Words help shape perception and reality. They actually have power. Once you master the art of expressing yourself through words, you will gain a skill and strength that is unmatched by anything that money, position, popularity, or even beauty can give you. This book seeks to give you these things. When it comes to affecting the spiritual growth of another, I have seen more undone by the misuse of a word than anything else. A person can be knocked back into the dark ages of their spiritual growth by what someone says or how they said it. I've seen church members leave over it, children turn away from their parents because of it, and parents despise their own children because of language choices. Marriages experience irreversible destruction because of words. Employees get fired over what they said, and pastors lose their churches over it. When Jesus wanted to relate to us a spiritual state that would give us insight into him, he did so in this way in John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. The verses above are not referring only to the creation in Genesis, which is quite obvious, but the means, the method of creation. It did not involve a magic spell or a potion or a symbol drawn in the sand, but the particular force and awesome power that accompanied the very words that God spoke. Jesus spoke everything into existence. He simply said it, and it happened. As we read multiple times in Genesis 1, and God said, and it was so. Matthew 4:4, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. The power of God lies in what God has said. That's why, as a believer, having the Word of God is powerful, holy, and essential. Outside of our free will and of Jesus himself, this book is designed to provide spiritual insight into God's greatest gift outside of salvation, the spoken and written Word. Each chapter is written to stand alone, and as such, there may be a few redundancies. If you're struggling in a particular area of communication, you merely need to read that chapter that most pertains to your weakness in order to gain the tools necessary to become more proficient in communicating with those around you. Woohoo! Wow. Nobody likes me. That's the title of the next one. Making and keeping friends. A Christian mentor of mine used to say, all of our failures are prayer failures. Seems true, because prayer is communion with God. When we don't pray, we don't talk to God. We get out of sync with him. Our thinking and our desires become more fleshly in nature. This is where we begin a journey of backsliding. Prayer is essential to a good relationship with God. And if we are made in the image of God, which we are, then communication is essential to all of our relationships, not just with him. Observe Genesis 3. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. God often walked in that garden and talked with Adam. This was the main means by which Adam came to know God. This was how he built a relationship with God. The same is true for Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Daniel, Samuel. I read them together. If no one likes you, or you feel that no one likes you, it is most likely because you are lacking in communication skills. You aren't speaking well with people. There are other reasons, of course, but the other reasons usually stem from this core problem. Here are a few of the other reasons why you might not be making friends. Insecurity, number 1. Whoa. Selfishness, 3. Pride, 4. An introverted personality, 5. Fear of people, 6. Overwhelming dominant personality, 7. Depression, 8. Arrogance, which sounds very similar to pride. But whatever the issue is, you'll find a weakness in communication is at the core of each of these issues listed. Wow. You'll never have the fulfillment in life that you want unless you can achieve strong relationships. I like that. I want to highlight that. Sharing experiences with others is often more enjoyable than experiencing them alone. It is your relationship that adds depth to your experiences and gives meaning to your actions and provides hope for tomorrow. Getting people to like you, or shall we say, gaining friends, is not a problem for those who understand the fundamentals of communication. Friendship, in and of itself, is not a separate relationship apart from others. You don't have family and friends or neighbors and friends. Rather, friendship is the higher form of any particular relationship. When neighbors become friends, when employees become friends, when mates become friends, or children become friends, you will enter into a whole new depth in that relationship. But how do we make friends? There are many keys. All of them involve communication. All of them involve talking with people. All of them involve expressing and opening up with words and also listening. Remember, not all forms of communication involve words. Sometimes you say a lot by what you do. You must be willing to be friendly. This seems like a no-brainer, but many people miss this essential point. Do not wait for someone to befriend you. Go befriend them. Who wants to hang around someone who's unfriendly? No one does. Proverbs 18:24, a man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Being friendly is not a feeling. Friendliness demonstrates an interest in someone else. Those of you who are waiting for the masses to discover your worthiness are going to be continually disappointed. Take an interest in other people, their needs, their desires, their wants, their hopes, their dreams, and you will find that they will return the favor. This does not say that you should be prying, nosy, or a busybody, but if you take interest, genuine interest in a person, you need to take an interest in areas that you can participate in. Communication is easiest and best way to communicate in to participate in someone else's life. Don't focus on yourself. Just talk about them. Ask questions. Show an interest in their lives without being too nosy or pushy, and they will take an interest in you. It is always difficult to make friends when you're focused on yourself. People are naturally repulsed by a selfish and self-centered person. So when you talk to them, ask questions about their life. Be careful not to get too personal with strangers who you know nothing about. Instead, adjust your conversation to the obvious things of his or her life. If you hear someone has a loved one in the hospital, approach them and ask if you can pray for them. Show an interest with the words you use. It's another group of people who needs to hear this advice. Those who are natural recluses or introverts, the quiet type. These, in and of themselves, are not bad, of course, but they will hinder your ability to make friends. When you don't get involved with other people's lives, they will assume that you want to be left alone. So they will leave you alone, believing that that's what you asked for. You, in turn, get upset because you think that people don't like you, but sweetheart, or hey, big fella, you are your own worst enemy. Get out there, shake some hands, smile. Many people who are in this category find themselves in a quandary. They want friends, but they're too afraid to introduce themselves, to get involved, and they make matters worse. Others think they want to be a loner, so they leave them alone. Here's a couple tips on friendliness. Number one, try to meet someone else's obvious need. And be fun, and do it in an amusing way. Express interest in what they really want. Number two, don't demand or expect or hint at repayment for a deed of kindness. Number three, be open. Don't be afraid to be hurt. You will be hurt. I'd rather love and be hurt than to never love at all. Most folks have a hard time opening up. Ouch. But when you include people in your life, they feel needed, and feeling needed always brings you closer to them. Number four, don't dominate a situation where you aren't expected to be the leader. Sit back, interact, relax. You don't have to control every conversation or every activity. You don't always have to have things done a certain way. Obviously, your way is better, but they don't need to know that. Number five, laugh, particularly at yourself. If you can't poke fun at yourself, no one's going to have fun. People need to feel at ease around those who don't take themselves too seriously. Number six, talk about ideas. Don't talk about other people. If you do talk about others, make sure it's positive. And never talk about others. So a fella said, weak minds talk about people, average minds talk about things, strong minds discuss ideas. Achieve common goals with others. Strive together, shoulder to shoulder. Often the strongest bonds are formed by working together. If you think back to a ball team that you were once on, you'll recall the strong bonds formed when you won or you lost as a team. I'm still friends with sports mates from high school. Amos 3:3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Nope, they can't. One will stop walking. When you both walk toward the same goal and the same end, you will build a rapport with each other, and that shows through your communication and emotion, and it develops a healthy friendships. One of the closest friends I ever had was the result of a project we both worked on together for 3 years. It happened to be a book. We co-authored it, never got it published, but for years we lived and breathed that book. We wrote over 150,000 words. We fought over it, brainstormed back and forth. We formed a bond that was very strong. And as long as we shared that goal, we were very close. We had many great conversations that strengthened and developed that relationship. Later, our paths took us in different directions, and we no longer shared the same ambition. As a result, we naturally drifted apart. The last time I talked with him, we hardly knew what to say to each other. Today, the closest friends I have are those that come to church with me. We share the same goals, ambitions, the same Jesus, same love, same direction, same purpose. We're super close, and it shows in our communication. We have little difficulty talking about things that we both love to do. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Volunteer to help someone, build an addition to their house, join them in a hobby, produce something of value, get involved in common goals. In counseling, I've often find that many married couples struggle because they have no common goals, no projects, nothing to dream about together, nothing to strive for together. So they strive against each other. When they were dating, they dreamed about the future. They strove toward a common target of marriage. For the average couple, they have found those dating years to be the closest part of their relationship. What happened? After marriage, their ultimate goal was accomplished. They're no longer striving together. They also found less to talk about. Don't be a spectator in life. Jump on in. It's the greatest form of communication is doing stuff together. It tells people you're interested, that you care, and that you genuinely love them. Don't be afraid, but be careful to not to suddenly take charge. Don't take over if you're not helping them achieve their goal. Domination without assistance is rude. Allow other people to lead. Let them stay in charge. You are there to help. I've watched individuals try to help someone else, but they do so by trying to take over. This rarely works. People are looking for real help, not someone to be in charge. I've watched friendships destroyed because someone tried to take over instead of merely helping in the right way. You must be willing to lose to gain. This is the next section. Friendship includes a willingness to make sacrifices. People who sacrifice for others are never friendless. John 15, greater love hath no man than this, than that a man lay down his life for his friends. That sounds expensive. Nothing says I love you more than laying on the floor. Just kidding. When you give up something important for someone else. It's not always funny. Sometimes you just have to give up what you want in order to gain friends. Again, thinking of yourself is the best way to go friendless in life. Here's a list of things you may need to sacrifice in order to make friends. Your fear, your time, your money, attention, love, work, dreams, ambitions. Ouch, that was painful. Making friends must be rewarding. It's a simple process of being willing to put others ahead of yourself. In turn, this should be reciprocated back to you. However, there's a verse that says, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I be loved. This is Christ-like love. Proverbs 19:6, many will entreat the favor of the prince, but every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. There will always be someone who will burn you for your generosity, especially if you're a giving person. You can plan on getting hurt and burned, but I can promise you this, Such a generous person will have more friends than a stingy person ever did. So you have a choice. You can get hurt occasionally, and you can have a whole pile of friends. Anyway, that's what that amounts to. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Number 3, should we pause? 7:43. I'm going to go right up to 8 o'clock, and we'll shut it down, and we'll hop over in the other space with the man who thinks he's a tiger. All right, number 3. We never talk. That's a silly accusation. I am allergic to accusations. Don't like it. Establishing good communication lines. The most common complaint I hear in marriage counseling is, we never talk. I hear it more from females than I do from males, but I definitely hear it from men as well. This chapter is going to primarily focus on married couples. However, the principle found here will be successful for other Christ-centered relationships as well. Every marriage needs to set up good communication lines where both of you can talk and discuss things without slicing each other. Imagine an army that didn't communicate with the various elements on the front lines. Imagine a quarterback who never communicated the plays to his fellow teammates. Imagine an employer who never communicated with his employees. Imagine a store owner never communicating with his customers. We can't imagine those things without thinking of the failures which would inevitably be attached to them. So imagine a marriage where the husband just doesn't feel like talking to his wife, or the wife just can't talk to her husband. How can there possibly be a meaningful relationship or a successful one if there's communication lacking? It doesn't matter what the relationship is. If there are not good, clear, open lines of communication, there will be problems. Make time to talk. Welcome. We're only going to be here for 15 minutes, just so we're available. Sorry, we're just reading a book together. You're welcome to listen in, but that was the purpose of the space, is we're just going to read. Make time to talk. Have a time and a place. The average wife doesn't have time where she can just unwind and speak with her husband. He comes home from work and just wants to unwind. He wants to relax. He doesn't want to talk. And that's, frankly, not right. He should be open to discussing things, especially problems. As true as that may be, it's his not talking will create more problems. Setting a particular comfortable time and a place to talk, both in short term and long term, will solve so many more problems. Otherwise, it turns into a compression chamber. I recommend that you set aside a bit of time each day, in the morning or evening, or whenever is convenient. But you have time to talk about the day, your plans, what you're thinking and feeling, and so on. In addition, having at least a weekly date where you can spend some time is smart, preventative maintenance. Throughout my 20 plus years of marriage, we have done many things to keep the lines of communication flowing. But of all the many different things we do, my wife will emphatically tell you that just talking is the most important of them all. I would call it listening. Like communication has a like there's got to be two, a talker and someone. We got to take turns, I believe. Jesus frequently took his disciples aside and communicated with them. He gave them personal instructions. He frequently took the time to talk and listen with various disciples alone. Jesus never assumed his disciples knew what he was thinking or what his intentions were. He wanted to ask them questions. He spent the time to answer those questions. But if you intend to establish good communication lines, you need to make time to talk. Men, you may be tense and wound up from a hard day's work, but if you don't make the time to communicate with your wife, you are flirting with disaster. Let's call it preventative maintenance, if you wish. Either talk now or you'll be doing quite a bit of it trying to fix the problems that your lack of communication has caused. Ouch. Here's something to talk about: the future. The Bible says in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. This is true for a nation, a church, a relationship, and a family. There must be a purpose and a vision to any successful relationship or endeavor. If your entire goal was simply to get married, now what? What's the purpose of being together? Many couples tell me that the most exciting time of their relationship was during the engagement. This is because they talked about the future. They planned for the wedding. They talked about their first apartment. They discussed children. They conversed about the honeymoon. They talked about their hopes, their dreams, ambitions, and that brought them very close. Here's a short list of things that you might want to discuss. Number 1, talk about where you would like to be in 1 month, 3 months, or a couple years. Talk about children, if you have none. Talk about teenagers, if your children are still small. Talk about life after the children grow up. Talk about projects, ideas, life savings, remodeling, or the Great Commission, your church, a specific outreach. Talk about heaven. Talk about dreams, ambitions. Just don't talk about yourself so much. It can be very discouraging for people when you only want to talk about self, self, self. If the only thing you can do to converse are about your problems or how great you are, you'll discover most people just walk away. Wives, when your husband comes home, don't just unload all your problems at once. That can hurt. You may need time to talk through all the problems and issues, but problems and issues don't make for great dinner dialogue. Establishing good communication lines will allow you to be heard when you have a problem that must be discussed. Learn to ask really good questions of the other person. Get them to open and feel comfortable. Let's talk about mutual interests. There's nothing better to establish good communication lines than talk about something that you are both interested in. As mentioned earlier, I worked with a friend of mine writing a novel, and we were both in high school. We would talk for hours over many days about this book. We played ping pong, talk about ideas. We had mutual interests. We had very good communication lines. Several years later, we went different directions in our lives and the book got shelved. During a few times we talked after that, we hardly knew what to say. We no longer had mutual interest. Skip last paragraph. Many parents lose touch with their teenagers because they don't share in the mutual interests. Next page, flipping. Hi, I see you. Do more listening than speaking, he says while he's reading a book. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Learning to listen is an essential skill that is necessary to develop great lines of communication. If you can't listen, why would someone wish to speak to you? A dear lady in our church asked my advice on how to help someone who came to her with a problem. I explained that it was not always necessary to find solutions. Sometimes just relax and listen. Did you know some of the most productive time in your life is unscheduled conversations? To establish good lines of communication, it's not always necessary to say anything. Job's friends were great friends for the first couple days when they were there and quiet. If you lend an ear, you nod, you agree, look them in the eye, receive what they're saying. Many a husband, me included, have made the mistake of interrupting his wife to offer a solution when all she wanted was for him to hear how she was feeling. Don't argue unnecessarily. You, of course, will disagree with someone, but that doesn't mean you have to argue with them. Arguing causes tension and resistance to what you say and to the truth. This does not establish good, clear lines of communication for the future. It is possible to disagree without having to argue. It is not always important that your opinion be made fully clear, and it's not necessary to be right 100% of the time. Learn to bypass areas you disagree in. There's an entire chapter later on how to handle disagreements, but not one of the ideas will involve arguing. Arguments accomplish little to nothing. First, it's so extremely rare they're going to change someone's mind. And secondly, forcing someone just makes them stick to a position out of pride. No one wins when there's an aggressive argument. To establish clear lines of communication, learn to disagree without banter. Here's some things you can do. You can ignore the disagreement, change the subject, I don't think that's always the best. I've tried that quite a while. And I think, anyway, number 2, ask questions that demonstrate disagreement without saying so. This may take a bit of skill, and you might want to read the chapter on how to handle arguments and disagreements, which is coming up. But the essence is that you ask probing questions that demonstrate your skepticism and disagreement without saying so. That's interesting. Introduce a disagreement from a third party. For example, you could say to someone something like, "That's interesting. I heard someone say once that holding a book that way will ruin it faster. What do you think?" In this case, you're demonstrating a disagreement with the way someone was holding a book without saying that you disagree, because there's a third party. Accept their opinion as just what it is, a simple opinion. Don't dig into the roots of their motives. Just let them stand where they stand, especially if it's non-essential. We can take these ideas and build solid lines of communication. The more you're able to communicate with others, the stronger your relationships will be. I'd like to add a sentence there. Leave the lines open rather than chop them off. We got to close this down in 6 minutes because we're going to hop over to another space and be with Brother Tiger. But I'm going to start this next chapter, which I know is going to hurt me because I've been hurt by words. All of us has. But this is chapter 4. We're just reading a book together. It's called Words Fitly Spoken. Sticks and Stones. The power of words to build or destroy the spirit. We've all heard the saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." It's a great idea, I guess. It's just not very accurate. In fact, for a lot of people, they've probably been hurt more by what someone said than by anything else. The power of a word to do damage to someone's spirit is quite immeasurable. But just as powerful is the ability a word has to repair, to heal, and to build up the spirit. Proverbs 18, "The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear?" The verse above doesn't indicate that a wounded spirit cannot be borne by a person. Rather, the verse indicates the strength of a man's spirit determines what he can handle in his life. If a man's spirit is broken, he can't deal with the difficulties of life very well. He's going to buckle under pressure. He'll hide from responsibility. And in some cases, he contemplates early exit from life. But a strong spirit enables a person to handle the burdens of life. We often call this morale. If morale is high, there is little fear of tackling difficulties. If morale is low, people tend to duck and run at the first sign of trouble. Proverbs 17, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." It is imperative that we maintain our own spirit and protect the spirit of people next to us. I propose that it is not the difficulties of life that wound or break the spirit. People are willing to tackle just about anything if they believe that they have the support and love of those around them. Wow. If they knew that they wouldn't be made fun of, if they knew that others will back them up, if they know that they won't be abandoned or left alone or forsaken, they'll confront almost any problem, handle any difficulty, navigate any situation. If it is not circumstances that break or wound the spirit, then what does? The short answer is people do. People and our relationships with them have the greatest potential to wound our spirit. The strength of a man's spirit is determined by relationships. I want to add this. A man is very strongly impacted by the words of a woman. He just needs someone to believe in him. Otherwise, he can't do anything. It is a lonely person that doesn't want to deal with life. It is the unloved person who feels overwhelmed. Psalm 142, "When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then thou knewest my path. In the way wherein I walked have they privily laid a snare for me. I looked on my right hand and beheld, but there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me, no man cared for my soul." The psalmist here is the Holy Spirit speaking through David. He is talking about his spirit being so overwhelmed by circumstances that he just couldn't find anybody who cared. And of course, we shouldn't feel that way. But what if someone would stand with him? Would he feel less overwhelmed? Maybe he'd be able to carry on. It is people that wound our spirit. It's people that break our spirit. I believe God intended relationships to be the key to our earthly happiness and well-being. His is the primary, not things, not objects, not mere serendipity that we get from ice cream. We spend too much of our time trying to accumulate stuff that we hope will bring a measure of reprieve and happiness and excitement to our lives, when it is actually relationships that hold the answer to genuine, lasting joy in this life. Proverbs 15, better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. I'd rather eat almost nothing and have love. The strength of a relationship is not dependent upon material wealth. Rather, it's built upon love and clear connection, communication, cables. Adam had everything he could want, but his needs were not met because he was alone. All of his wants were taken care of. He was still unhappy. At Genesis 2, Adam gave names to all the cattle, to the fowls of the air, to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found an help meet for him. This is a few verses before. God recognizes the problem. God said, it's not good that the man should be alone. I will make an help meet for him. Thus, building strong relationships is imperative to the maintenance of your happiness. Without a doubt, the words we say are an essential to that process. When we accuse, we got to wrap it up. We can't be too late. I'll finish this page and we'll have to shut it down and come back sometime. Oh, I hate accusations. Accusations are from the devil. I don't like it. I don't like it. It hurts so bad. I'd rather you punch me anywhere than accuse me. When we accuse, lie, malign, slander, ridicule, gossip, criticize, we damage a person's spirit. This damages relationships with that person, which inevitably harms your own spirit, and it limits their potential for serving God. The counseling I do is overwhelmingly about trying to patch up a breach caused by what someone said or how it felt. And neither party gets happy at that point. The one who said the wrong thing and the one who is wounded by those words each live in misery. Negative words drain a person's ability to deal with life. When you hurt someone with your words or damage the relationship, you reduce their capacity to deal with issues of life. He just said that. The strength of a relationship can endure any circumstance of life. Words are the means that we use to express the vibrancy of our connection to others. 2 more verses and then we got to go. Proverbs 25:11, we all know this one. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver. Proverbs 15:23, a man hath joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good is it? All right, got to wrap it up. 8 p.m. God bless y'all. We'll go to Tiger Space, and then we'll see you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Good night. Bye-bye.